acts and demises of Kepha, Paulus, Shimon, Perpetua, Nero, and Potentiana, from the book The Nazarene Acts of the Apostles, performed by Bogdan G. Shrumkov, that's me, and Jackson Snyder. Catch us on NazareneActs.com.
Descent of Shimon HaMag, from the Acts of Kepha and Paulos, also known as the Acts of Kepha, Paulos, and Shimon before Nero. Chapter 1. So it happened, after Paulos went out of the island of Melita, that he came to Italy. And it was heard of by the Yehudaim who were in Rome, the elders of the cities, that Paulos demanded to come to Caesar. Having fallen into great grief and much despondency, they said among themselves, "It does not please him that he alone has afflicted all our brethren and parents in Yehuda and Shamron, and in all Palestine. And he has not been pleased with these, but look, he comes here also, having through imposition asked Caesar to destroy us." Having therefore made a council against Paulos, and having considered many proposals, it seemed good to them to go to Nero the emperor to ask him not to allow Paulos to come to Rome. Having acquired in readiness not a few presents, and having carried them with them, with supplication they came before Nero, saying, "We beseech you, O good emperor, send orders into all the governments that worship you, to the effect that Paulos is not to come near these parts, because this Paulos, having afflicted all the nations of our fathers, has been seeking to come here to destroy us also. And the affliction, O most worshipful emperor, that we have from Kepha is enough for us." And the emperor Nero, having heard these things, answered them, "It is, in accordance to your desire. And we write to all our governments that he will not on any account come to anchor in these parts of Italy." And they also informed Shimon HaMag, having sent for him, that, as has been said, he should not come into these parts of Italy. But now he has been summoned. While they were doing this, some of those of the many tribes that had repented and that had been baptized at the preaching of Kepha sent elders to Paulos with a letter to the following effect. Paulos, dear slave of our Master Yeshua Messiah and brother of Kepha, the first of the apostles, we have heard from the rabbis of the Yehudaim that are in Rome, the greatest of the cities, that they have asked Caesar to send into all his governments, so that wherever you may be found, you may be put to death. But we have believed, and do believe, that as Elohim does not separate the two great lights that he has made, so he is not to part you either Kepha from Paulos, nor Paulos from Kepha. But we positively believe in our Master Yeshua Messiah, into whom we have been baptized, that we have become worthy also of your education. And Paulos, having received the two men sent with the letter on the 20th of the month of May, became eager to go, and gave thanks to the Master Yeshua Messiah, and having sailed from Melita, he did not now come through Africa to the parts of Italy, but ran to Sicily, until he came to the city of Syracuse, with the two men who had been sent from Rome to him. And having sailed there, he came to Rhegium of Calabria, and from Rhegium he crossed to Messina, and there ordained a bishop, Bacchylus by name. And when he came out of Messina, he sailed to Didymus, and he remained there one night. Having sailed there, he came to Puteoli on the second day. And Dioscorus, the ship's captain, who brought Paulos to Syracuse, sympathizing with him because he had delivered his son from death, having left his own ship in Syracuse, accompanied him to Puteoli. And some of Kepha's disciples, having been found there, and having received Paulos, exhorted him to stay with them. And he stayed a week, and he was in hiding, because of the command of Caesar. And all the chief rulers were watching to seize and kill him. But Dioscorus, the ship's captain, being himself also bald, and wearing his shipmaster's clothing, speaking boldly, went out into the city of Puteoli on the first day, Thinking that he was Paulos, they seized him and beheaded him and sent his head to Caesar. Caesar Nero, having summoned the chiefs of the Yehudaim, announced to them, "Rejoice with great joy, for your enemy Paulos is dead, and he showeth them the head." Having created great rejoicing on that day, that is the 14th of the month of June, each of the Yehudaim fully believed it. But Paulos, being in Puteoli, and having heard that Dioscorus had been beheaded, he grieved greatly, and gazing into the height of the sky, said, "O Yahweh Elohim in the sky, who has appeared to me in every place that I have gone on account of your only begotten word, our Master Yeshua Mashiach, punish this city, and bring out all who have believed in Elohim and followed his word." So Paulo said to them all, "Follow me." And going forth from Puteoli with those who had believed in the word of Elohim, they came to a place called Bias, and looking up with their eyes, they all see that city called Puteoli, sinking into the seashore about 6 feet. And there it is, sunken until this day under the sea for a remembrance. And having gone forth from Bias, they went to Gaitus, and there he taught the word of Elohim. And he stayed there 3 days in the house of Erasmus, whom Kepha sent from Rome to teach the good news of Elohim. And having come forth from Gaitus, he came to the castle called Terrakinas, and stayed there 7 days in the house of the deacon Caesarius, whom Kepha had ordained by the laying on of hands. And sailing there, he came by the river to a place called Tribus Tabernes, or 3 taverns. Those who had been saved out of the city of Puteoli, the city that had been swallowed up, reported to Caesar in Rome that Puteoli had sunk with all its multitude of people. And the emperor, being in great grief on account of the city, having summoned the chief of the Yehudaim, said to them, "Look, on account of what I heard from you, I have called Paulos to be beheaded. Then on account of this, the entire city has been swallowed up." So the chief of the Yehudaim said to Caesar,
"Most worshipful emperor,
did we not say to you that he was trouble for all the eastern country, as well as having perverted our predecessors? Therefore, it is better, most worshipful emperor, that one city be destroyed and the seat of your empire left alone." On account of this, Rome had not suffered loss. The emperor, having heard their words, was appeased, and Paulos stayed in Tribus Tabernes 4 days. And departing there, he came to Appii Forum, which is called Vicusarape. And having slept there that night, he saw one fellow sitting on a golden chair with a multitude of blacks standing beside him. He said,
"Today I have forced a son to murder his father."
And another fellow said,
"And I have collapsed the house and killed children with their parents."
And they reported to him many evil deeds, some of one kind, some of another. And another coming along reported to him, "I have manipulated the bishop Juvenalius, whom Kepha ordained, to sleep with the lady Juliana." Hearing all these things while trying to sleep in the Appii Forum, near Vicusarape, immediately he sent one of those who followed him in Puteoli to Rome to the bishop Juvenalius, telling him the same thing that had just been done. Then on the following day, Juvenalius came running and threw himself down at the feet of Kepha, weeping and lamenting and saying what had just happened. And he recounted to him the entire matter, saying, I believe that this is the light you were awaiting." Kepha said to him, "How is it possible that it is he when he is dead?" Then Juvenalius the bishop took him who had been sent by Paulos to Kepha, who reported to him that he was alive and on his way, and that he was at Appii Forum. And Kepha thanked and glorified the Elohim and Father of our Master Yeshua Mashiach, for Paulos was alive. Then, having summoned his disciples that believed, he sent them to Paulos as far as Tribus Tabernus. That is, the distance from Rome to Tribus Tabernus is 38 miles. Paulos, seeing them, having given thanks to our Master Yahshua Moshiach, took courage, and departing there, he slept in the city called Aricia. And a report went about in the city of Rome that Paulos, the brother of Kepha, was coming. Those who believed in Elohim rejoiced very greatly, but there was great consternation among the Yehudaim, and having gone to Shimon Hamag, they tempted him by saying, "Report to the emperor that Paulos is not dead, but that he is alive and has come here." At this, Shimon said to the Yehudaim,
Whose head is this, then, that was delivered to Caesar from Puteoli? Was it not bald, like Paulos?
So Paulos, having come to Rome, caused great fear to fall upon the Yehudaim. Soon they came together to him and exhorted him, saying, "Vindicate the faith in which you were born. It is not right that you, being born a Hebrew and of the Hebrews, should call yourself a teacher of Goyim and vindicator of the uncircumcised, since you yourself are circumcised. Is it right that you should bring to naught the faith of the circumcision? No way. So when you see Kepha, contend against his teaching, because he has destroyed all the bulwarks of our Torah. For he has not approved keeping the Shabbatot, the new moons, and the Yom Tov recorded in the Torah." Then Paulos, answering, told them, "Yes, I am a true Yehud, and by this you can prove it. For you also have been able to keep the Shabbatot and to observe the true circumcision. For surely on the day of the Shabbat Elohim rested from all his works." Paulos continues, "Indeed, we have the fathers and the patriarchs and the Torah. What then does Kepha preach within the kingdom of the Goyim? Something else? But if he wants to bring in any new teaching without tumult, envy, or trouble, then send him word that we will see to him. And if necessary, I will accuse him in your presence. But if his teaching be true, supported by the Kephar and the testimony of the Hebrews, it is right for all of us to submit to him." After Paulos said these and such like things, the Yehudaim went and said to Kepha, "Paulos of the Hebrews has come, and entreats you to come to him, since those who have brought him say that he cannot meet whomsoever he may wish until he appear before Caesar." But Kepha, having heard, and not believing their report, rejoiced with great joy, and rising up, immediately went to him. And seeing each other, they wept for joy, and long embracing each other, they bedewed each other with tears. And when Paulos had related to Kepha the substance of all his doings, and how through the disasters of the ship he had arrived, Kepha also told him what he had suffered from Shimon Hamag and all his plots. And having discussed all these things, Paulos left there at about evening. And at the morning's dawn of the next day, look, Kepha is coming. Kepha finds a multitude of the Yehudim right in front of Paulos' door. There happened to be a great uproar between the Nazarene Yehudim and the Goyim, for on the one hand the Yehudim said,
"We are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, the friends of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and all the prophets, with whom Elohim spoke, to whom he showed his own mysteries and his great wonders. But you of the Gentiles are no great thing in your bloodline. And if you should be, you have become polluted and abominable by idols and graven images."
While the Yehudim were saying such things, the Goyim answered, "We, when we heard the truth, immediately followed it, abandoning our errors. But you, both knowing the mighty deeds of your fathers, and seeing the signs of the prophets, and having received the Torah, and also going through the sea with dry feet, and even having seen your enemies sunk in its depths, and the pillar of fire by night and of cloud by day, shining upon you, and manna having been given to you out of the sky, and water flowing to you out of a rock, after all these things, You fashioned to yourself the idol of a calf and worship the graven image. But we, having seen none of such signs, we believe in Elohim's Savior, who you have forsaken in unbelief." While they were contending in these words and the like, the apostle Paul said that they ought not make such attacks upon each other, but that they should rather give heed to this, that Elohim had fulfilled his promises that he swore to Abraham our father, that his progeny should inherit all the nations. For Elohim is not a respecter of persons. As many as have sinned in Torah will be judged according to Torah, and as many as have sinned without Torah will perish without Torah. But we all, Akimi, ought to thank Elohim that in accordance with his mercy, he has chosen us to be a holy people for himself, so that in this we ought to boast, whether we be Yehudaim or Goyim, for you are all one in believing on his name. No. Chapter 2. Paulos, having thus spoken, both the Yehudaim and they of the Goyim were appeased, but the rulers of the Yehudaim assailed Kepha. And Kepha, when they accused him of having renounced their synagogue, said, "Hear, brethren, the Ruach HaKodesh about the patriarch David, promising, he will set the fruit of your womb upon your throne. Him to whom the Father said, 'You are my son, this day I have begotten you,' the chief priests crucified through jealousy. But that he might accomplish the salvation of the world, it was allowed that he should suffer all these things. Just as Chava was formed from the side of Adam, so also from the side of Messiah the assembly was created, which has no spot nor blemish. In him, therefore, Elohim has opened an entrance to all the sons of Abraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov, in order that they may be in the faith of profession towards him, and have life and salvation in his name. So turn around and enter into the joy of your father Abraham, because to him Elohim has fulfilled what was promised." From that source, the Navi also says, "Yahweh has sworn and will not repent. You are a priest forever, after the order of Melchizedek." For a priest, he became affixed upon the stake, when he offered the holocaust of his own body and blood as a sacrifice for all the world. And Kepha saying this and such like, the most part of the people believed. And it happened also that Nero's wife Livia and the yokefellow of Agrippa the prefect, Agrippina by name, also believed, so that they left their husbands. And on account of the teaching of Paulos, many, despising military life, clung to Elohim, so that even from the emperor's bedchamber some came to him, and having become believers, were no longer willing to return to the army or the palace. Consequently, when the people were making a seditious murmuring, Shimon, moved with zeal, rouses himself and began to say many evil things about Kepha, saying that he was a wizard and a cheat. And they believed him, wondering at his miracles. For he made a brazen serpent move itself, and stone statues to laugh and move themselves, and himself to run and suddenly to be raised into the air. But as a set-off to these, Kepha healed the sick by a word, by praying made the blind to see, put demons to flight by a command. Sometimes he even raised the dead. And he said to the people that they should not only flee from Shimon's deceit, but also that they should expose him, that they might not seem to be slaves to the devil. And thus it happened that all pious men abhorred Shimon Hamag, and proclaimed him irreverent. But those who adhered to Shimon strongly affirmed Kepha to be a Magian, bearing false witnesses many of them as were with Shimon Hamag, so that the matter came even to the ears of Nero the Caesar, and he gave order to bring Shimon Hamag before him. And he, coming in, stood before him, and began suddenly to assume different forms, so that all of a sudden he became a child. and after that a little old man, and at other times a young man. For he changed both face and stature into different forms, and was in a frenzy, having the devil as his slave. Nero, seeing this, supposed him to be truly the son of Elohim. But the Sholiach Kepha showed him to be both a liar and a wizard, a base and disrespectful apostate, and in all things opposed to the truth of Elohim, and that nothing yet remained of him except his wickedness, later made apparent by the command of Elohim, so it might be made manifest to them all. Then Shimon, having gone in to Nero, said,
Listen, O good emperor. I am the son of Elohim come down from the skies. Until now I have endured this Kepha who is calling himself a Sholiach. But now he has doubled the evil. For Paulos himself also teaches the same things, and having his mind turned against me, is said to preach along with him, in reference to whom, if you will not contrive their destruction, it is very plain that your kingdom cannot stand.
Then Nero, filled with concern, ordered his slaves to bring both of them before him immediately, and on the following day, Shimon Hamag and Kepha and Paulos, the Shlichim of Messiah, having come before Nero, Shimon then said,
These are the disciples of the Nazarene, and it is not at all well that they should be of the people of Yehuda.
And Nero said, What is a Nazarene? Shimon said,
There is a city of Yehuda that has always been opposed to us, called Nazareth, and to it the teacher of these men belonged.
Nero said, But God commands us to love every man, so why then do you persecute them? Shimon said,
This is a race of men who have turned aside all Yehuda from believing in me.
Nero said to Kepha, Why are you thus unbelieving according to your race? Then Kepha said to Shimon, You have been able to impose upon all, but upon me never. And those who have been deceived, Elohim has through me recalled from this error. And since you have learned by experience that you cannot get the better of me, I wonder with what face you boast yourself before the emperor, and thus suppose that, through your magic art, you will overcome the disciples of Messiah. Nero said, Who is Messiah? Kepha said, He is whom that this Shimon Hamag affirms himself to be, but this is a most wicked man, and his works are of the devil. But if you wish to know, O good emperor, the things that have been done in Yehuda regarding Messiah, take the writings of Pontius Pilate sent to Claudius, and thus you will know all. And Nero ordered them to be brought and to be read in their presence. And they were to the following effect.
Quiet.
Pontius Pilate to Claudius greeting. There has lately happened an event that I myself was involved in. For the Yehudaim, through envy, have inflicted on themselves and those coming after them dreadful judgments. Their fathers had promises that their God would send them his Holy One from the sky, who according to reason should be called their king. And he promised to send him to the earth by means of a virgin. He then, when I was procurator, came into Yehuda, and they saw him enlightening the blind, cleansing lepers, healing paralytics, expelling demons from men, raising the dead, subduing the winds, walking upon the waves of the sea, and doing many other wonders. And all the people of the Yehudaim called him Son of Elohim. Then the chief priests, moved with envy against him, seized him and delivered him to me. And telling one lie after another, they said that he was a wizard, and did contrary to their law. And I, having believed that these things were so, gave him up, after scourging him to their will. And they crucified him, and after he was buried, set guards over him. But he, while my soldiers were guarding him, rose on the third day. And to such a degree was the wickedness of the Yehudaim inflamed against him, that they gave money to the soldiers, saying, say his disciples have stolen his body. But they, having taken the money, were not able to keep silence as to what had happened, for they have testified that they have seen him after he was risen, and that they have received money from the Yehudaim. These things, therefore, have I reported, that no one should falsely speak otherwise.
It's break time, right? Be right back.
And that you should not suppose that the falsehoods of the Yehudaim are to be believed. So after the letter was read, Nero said, Tell me, Kepha, were all these things thus done by him? And Kepha said, They were, with your permission, O good emperor. For this Shimon is full of lies and deceit, even if it should seem that he is what he is not, that is, a god. In the true Messiah there is all excellent victory through Elohim and through man, which that incomprehensible glory assumed, which through man designed to come to the assistance of men. But in this Shimon there are two essences, of man and of devil, who through man endeavors to ensnare men. Shimon said,
I wonder, O good emperor, that you reckon this man of any consequence, a man uneducated, a fisherman of the poorest, and endowed with power neither in word nor by rank. But that I may not long endure him as an enemy, I will immediately order my angels to come and avenge me upon him.
Kepha said, I am not afraid of your angels, but they will be much more afraid of me in the power and trust of my master Yeshua Messiah, whom you falsely declare yourself to be. Nero said, Are you not afraid, Kepha, of Shimon, who confirms his godhood by works? Kepha said, Godhood is in him who searches the hidden things of the heart. Now then, tell me what I am thinking about or what I am doing. I disclose to your slaves who are here what my thought is before he tells lies about it, in order that he may not dare to lie as to what I am thinking about. Nero said, Come hither and tell me what you are thinking about. Kepha said, Order a barley loaf to be brought and to be given to me secretly. And when Nero ordered it to be brought and secretly gave it to Kepha, Kepha said, Now tell us, Shimon, what has been thought or what said or what done? Nero said, Do you expect me to believe that Shimon does not know these things, who both raised a dead man and presented himself on the third day after he had been beheaded, and who has done whatever he said he would do? Kepha said, But he did not do it before me. Nero said, But he did all these things before me, for assuredly he ordered angels to come to him, and they came. Kepha said, If he has done what is very great, why does he not do what is very small? Let him tell what I had in my mind and what I have done. Nero said, Between us, I do not know myself. Shimon said,
Let Kepha say what I am thinking of, or what I am doing.
Kepha said, What Shimon has in his mind I will show that I know, by my doing what he is thinking about. Shimon said,
Know this, O emperor, that no one knows the thoughts of men but the God alone. Is not therefore Kepha lying?
Kepha said, You then, who says you are the son of Elohim, tell what I have in my mind. Disclose, if you can, what I have just done in secret. For Kepha, having blessed the barley loaf that he had received, and having broken it with his right hand and his left, had heaped it up and hidden it in his sleeves. Then Shimon, enraged that he was not able to tell the secret of the Sholiach, cried out, saying,
Let great the dogs come forth and eat him up before Caesar.
And suddenly there appeared great dogs, and rushed at Kepha. But Kepha, stretching forth his hands to pray, showed to the dogs the loaf that he had blessed, which loaf they could see, and the dogs vanished from sight.
Acts and demises of Kepha, Paulus, Shimon, Perpetua, Nero, and Potentiana, from the book The Nazarene Acts of the Apostles, performed by Bogdan G. Shrumkov, that's me, and Jackson Snyder. catch us on NazareneActs.com.
Then Kepha said to Nero, "Look, I have shown you that I knew what Shimon was thinking of, not by words, but by deeds. For he, having promised that he would bring angels against me, has brought dogs, in order that he might show that he has no godlike angels, but dog-like angels." And Nero said to Shimon, "What is it, Shimon? I think we have got the worst of it." Shimon said,
This man, both in Yehuda and in all Palestine and Caesarea, has done the same to me, and from very often striving with me, he has learned how to escape from me. But the thoughts of men no one knows, but Elohim alone.
And Kepha said to Shimon, "Certainly you feign yourself to be a god. Why then do you not reveal the thoughts of everyone?" Then Nero, turning to Paulos, said, "Why do you say nothing, Paulos?" Paulos answered and said, "Know this, so, Emperor, that if you permit this magician to do such things, it will bring a plethora of the greatest mischief to your country, and will bring down your empire from its position." Nero said to Shimon, "What do you say, Shimon?" Shimon said,
If I do not manifestly hold myself out to be a god, no one will bestow upon me due reverence.
Nero said, "And now, why do you delay and not show yourself to be a god?
God, in order that these men may be punished."
Shimon said,
"Give orders to build for me a high tower of wood, and I, going up upon it, will call my angels, and order them to take me in the sight of all to my Father in the skies. And these men, not being able to do this, are put to shame as uneducated fools."
And Nero said to Kepha, "Have you heard, Kepha, what has been said by Shimon? From this will appear how much power either he or your God has." Kepha said, "O most mighty Emperor, if you were willing, you might perceive that he is full of demons." Nero said, "Why do you make me roundabouts and circumlocutions? Tomorrow will prove you." Shimon said,
"Do you believe, O good Emperor, that I, who was dead and rose again, am a magician? For such an impression Kepha and Paulos have communicated through their own cleverness, that the masses who know me as the great God might be carried away with their own magic tricks. So order me to be beheaded in a dark place, and there to be left slain. And if I do not rise on the third day, know that I am a magician. But if I rise again, know that I am the Son of God."
And Nero, having ordered this, in the dark, by his magic art, and until it was beheaded, the ram appeared to all to be Shimon. And he that had beheaded him, taking the head and surveying it, found it to be that of a ram. But he would not say anything to the emperor, lest he should be scourged for having ordered all this to be done in secret. Thereafter, accordingly, Shimon said that he had risen on the third day, because he took away the head of the ram and the limbs, though the blood had congealed, and on the third day he showed himself to Nero and said,
"Cause to be wiped away my blood that has been poured out. For look, having been beheaded, as I promised, I have risen again on the third day."
At this Nero said, "Tomorrow I will prove you." Turning to Paulos, he says, "You, Paulos, why do you say nothing? Who taught you? Or whom had you for a master? Or how have you been able to teach in the cities? Or what prodigies have happened through your teaching? For I think that you have not any wisdom, and are not able to accomplish any work of power. Just my opinion, of course. Paulos answered, "Do you suppose that I ought to speak against a desperate man, a magician, who has given his soul up to death, whose destruction and perdition will come speedily? For he ought to speak who pretends to be what he is not, and deceives all by magic art. And if you consent to hear his words and to shield him, you will destroy your soul and your kingdom, for he is a most base man." And as the Egyptians, Yanai and Yambrai, led Pharaoh and his army astray until they were swallowed up into the sea, so also he, through the instruction of his father the devil, persuades men to do many evils to themselves, and thus deceives many of the innocent, to the peril of your kingdom. But as for the word of the devil, which I see has been poured out through this man with groanings of my heart, I am dealing with the Spiritus Sancti, that it may be clearly shown what he really is. For as far as he seems to raise himself toward the sky, so far will he be sunk down into the depths of Hades, where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. But about the teachings of my master, of which you ask me, none attain it except the pure, who allow faith to come into their hearts. For as many as belong to peace and love, these have I taught. Round about from Jerusalem, and as far as Illyricum, I have fulfilled the word of Shalom. For I have taught that each should prefer one another in honor. I have taught those that are eminent and rich not to be lifted up and hope in the uncertainty of riches, but to place their hope in Elohim. And I have taught those in a middle station to be content with food and covering. I have taught the poor to rejoice in their own poverty. I have taught fathers to teach their children instruction in the fear of Yahweh, and children to obey their parents in wholesome admonition. I have taught wives to love their own husbands, to fear them as masters, and husbands to observe fidelity to their wives. I have taught masters to treat their slaves with clemency, and slaves to serve their own masters faithfully. I have taught the assembly of believers to reverence one almighty potentate, invisible, the incomprehensible Elohim. And this teaching has been given me, not from men, nor through men, but through Yahshua Messiah, who spoke to me out of the skies, who also has sent me to preach, saying to me, "Go forth, for I will be with you, and all things, as many as you will say or do, I will make just." Nero, applauding, afterward said, "What do you say, Kepha?" Kepha answered and said, "All that Paulos has said is true. For when he was a persecutor of the faith of Messiah, a voice called out to him from the skies, and taught him the truth. For he was not an adversary of our faith from hatred, but from ignorance. For there were before us false messiahs, like Shimon, false shlichim, and false Naviyim, who, contrary to the sacred writings, set themselves to make void the truth. And against these it was necessary to have in readiness this man, who from his youth up set himself to no other thing than to search out the mysteries of the divine law, by which he might become a vindicator of truth and a persecutor of falsehood. Since then his persecution was not on account of hatred, but on account of the vindication of the law. The very truth out of heaven communicated with him, saying, I am the truth that you persecute. Quit persecuting me. And when he knew that this was so, leaving off that which he was vindicating, he began to vindicate this way of Messiah, which he was persecuting. Shimon said,
"Oh, good Emperor, take notice that these two have conspired against me, for I am the truth, and they propose evil against me."
Kepha said, "There is no truth in you, but all you say is false." Nero said, "Paulos, what do you say?" Paulos said, "Those things which you have heard from Kepha, you may believe that they have been spoken by me also, for we propose the same thing, for we have the same master, Yahshua, the Messiah." Shimon said,
"Do you expect me, O good Emperor, to hold an argument with these men who have come to an agreement against me?"
And having turned to the shlichim of Messiah, he said,
"Listen, Kepha and Paulos, if I can do nothing for you here, we are going to the place where I must judge you."
Paulos said, "O good emperor, see what threats he holds out against us." Kepha said, "Ha ha ha! How are we able to keep from laughing outright at such a foolish man, who demons have made the butt of jokes?" Shimon said,
"I spare you until I will receive my power."
Paulos said, "Let us see if you can even make it out of here safely." Kepha said, "Shimon, if you do not see the power of our master Yahshua Messiah, you will not believe yourself not to be Messiah." Shimon said,
"Most sacred emperor, do not believe them, for they are circumcised knaves."
Paulos said, "Before we knew the truth, we had the circumcision of the flesh. But when the truth appeared, in the circumcision of the heart, we both are circumcised, and we circumcise." Kepha said, "If circumcision be a disgrace, why have you been circumcised, Shimon?" Nero said, "Has then Shimon also been circumcised?" Kepha said, "For not otherwise could he have deceived souls unless he feigned himself to be of the Yehudaim and made a show of teaching the law of Elohim." Nero said, "Shimon, you, as I see, being carried away with envy, persecute these men. For as it seems, there is great hatred between you and their Messiah, and I am afraid that you will be worsted by them and involved in great evils." Shimon said,
"You are led astray, O emperor."
Nero said, "How am I led astray? What I see in you, I say, I see that you are manifestly an enemy of Kepha and Paulos, as well as their master." Shimon said,
"Messiah was not Paulos' master."
Paulos said, "Yes, through revelation he taught me also. But tell me what I ask you. Why were you circumcised?" Shimon said,
"Why have you asked me this?"
Paulos said, "We have a reason for asking you this." Nero said, "Why are you afraid to answer them?" Shimon said,
"Listen, O emperor, at that time circumcision was enjoined by Elohim when I received it. For this reason was I circumcised."
Paulos said, "Do you hear, O good emperor, what has been said by Shimon? If therefore circumcision be a good thing, why have you, Shimon, given up those who have been circumcised and forced them, after condemning them, to be put to death?" Nero said, "Neither about you do I perceive anything good." Kepha and Paulos said,
"Whether this thought about us being good or evil has no reference to the matter.
But to us it was necessary that what our master promised should come to pass." Nero said, "And if I should not be willing for it to come to pass?" Kepha said, "Not as you will, but as he promised to us." Shimon said,
"O good emperor, these men have reckoned upon your clemency and have bound you."
Nero said, "But neither have you yet made me sure about yourself." Shimon said,
"Since so many excellent deeds and signs have been shown to you by me, I wonder how you should be in doubt."
Nero said, "I neither doubt nor favor any of you. But answer me rather what I ask." Shimon said,
"From now on, I answer you nothing."
Nero said, "You say this because you lie. But if even I can do nothing to you, O Shimon, the gods, who can do something to you, will do something to you." Shimon said,
"Shut your mouth. I no longer answer to you."
Nero said, "Nor do I consider you to be anything, for as I perceive, you are a liar in everything. So why should I talk about this so much? The three of you show that your reasoning is uncertain, and thus in all things you have made me doubt, so that I find that I can give credit to none of you." Kepha said, "We preach one Elohim and Father of our Master Yahshua Messiah, that has made the sky and the earth and the sea and all that is therein, who is the true emperor. And of his empire there will be no end." Nero said, "What king is king?" Paulos said, "The Savior of all the nations." Shimon said,
"I am he whom you speak of."
Kepha and Paulos said, "May it never be well with you, Shimon, magician, and full of bitterness." Shimon said,
"Listen, O Caesar Nero, that you may know that these men are liars, that I have been sent from the skies. Tomorrow I go up into the skies, that I may make those who believe in me blessed, and show my wrath upon those who have denied me."
Kepha and Paulos said, "Long ago Elohim called us to his own glory, but you, called by the devil, hastens to punishment." Shimon said,
Caesar Nero, listen to me. Separate these bad men from you, in order that when I go into the sky to my father, I may be very merciful to you.
Nero said, By what means will we prove this, that you go away into the sky? Shimon said,
Order a lofty tower to be made of wood and of great beams, that I may go up upon it, that my angels may find me in the air, for they cannot come to me upon earth among these sinners.
Nero said, I will see whether you will fulfill what you say. So Nero went ahead and ordered a lofty tower to be made in the Campus Martius, and all the people and the dignitaries to be present at the spectacle. And on the following day, all the multitude having come together, Nero ordered Kepha and Paulos to be present, to whom also he said, Now the truth has to be made manifest. Kepha and Paulos said,
We do not expose him,
but our master Yeshua Messiah, the Son of Elohim, whom he has falsely declared himself to be, exposes him. And Paulos, having turned to Kepha, said, it's my part to bend the knee and pray to Elohim. It's your part to produce the effect. If you should see him attempting anything, for you were first taken in hand by the master. And Paulos, bending his knees, prayed, for his life was at stake. And Kepha, looking steadfastly upon Shimon, said, Accomplish what you have begun, for both your exposure and our call is at hand. For I see my Messiah calling both Paulos and me skyward. Nero said, And where do you think you will go against my will? Kepha said, Wherever our master has called us, we will go. Nero said, And who is your master again? Am I not your master? If not, tell me who is. Kepha said, Yeshua the Messiah, whom I see calling us to himself. Nero said, Do you also then intend to go away into the skies? Kepha said, If it will seem good to him that calls us. Shimon said,
In order that you may know, O Emperor, that these are deceivers, as soon as ever I ascend into the skies, I will send my angels to you, and will make you come to me.
Nero said, Well, go and do what you say immediately. Then Shimon went up upon the tower in the face of all, and, crowned with laurels, as a king and god, stretched forth his hands and began to fly. And when Nero saw him flying, he said to Kepha, the Shimon is true, but you and Paulos are the deceivers. To this Kepha said, Immediately will you know that we are true disciples of Messiah, but that he is not Messiah, but a magician and a malefactor. Nero said, Do you still persist? Look, you can see him going up into the sky. He is indeed flying. Then Kepha, looking steadfastly upon Paulos, said, Paulos, look up and see. And Paulos, having looked up, full of tears, seeing Shimon flying, said, Kepha, why are you idle? Finish what you have begun, for already our master Yeshua Messiah is calling us. And Nero, hearing them, smiled a little and said, These men see themselves worsted already, and they have gone mad. Kepha said, Now you will know that we are not mad. Paulos said to Kepha, Do at once what you do best. And Kepha, looking steadfastly against Shimon, skyward shouted, I adjure you, you angels of Satan, who are carrying him into the air to deceive the hearts of the unbelievers, by the Elohim that created all things, and by Yeshua Messiah, whom on the third day he raised from the dead, no longer from this hour keep him up, but now let him go. But I command you, let him go. And immediately, being let go, Shimon HaMag fell into a place called Sacrawiyah, that is the Holy Way, and was divided into 4 parts, having perished by an evil fate. was good. There's more to come, but not today. We're out of time. So look around, maybe you can find the second part of the Great Demise. You're listening to Jackson Snyder Presents, and I thank you.
Of life's fullness, take all it can give. I love life, every moment must count, to glory in its sunshine and revel in its fount. I love life, I want to live, I love life. I love life, it holds me in its sway. My heart hears its music, a melody gladsome and gay. I love life, I have none of worldly strife. Oh, but to live, live and drink of life's fullness, take all it can give. I love life, every moment must count, to glory in its sunshine and revel in its fount. I love life, I want to live, I love life.
Greetings and felicitations to you and all your kin. This is your brother Jack. This is part 2 of the Great Demise. In part 1, we had the demise of Peter, Paul, Nero, soldiers, Perpetua, Potentiana. This time, we're going through with the demises of Clement, James, Polycarp. Someone else there I know that I can't remember right now. But still, it's a celebration of life. I wonder what you or I would do if we were faced with the dilemma of whether to pour out a little libation to Caesar or lose our lives, or hail Caesar or else lose our families, to the sword, to the wild beasts of the arena, or to the stake of burning. Thank Yahweh we're not living in that kind of culture today. But there are a lot of people that think we are. People with big problems, bigger than you or I. People who need help. We here in New Earth Restoration Ministries are trying to help, and maybe you are too. Maybe you've been looking at counseling all your life as something that you thought you had the propensity and inner gifts to do. Your problem? You didn't have the training. You didn't have the university. You didn't have the certification. But you can get that now through our programs in the Essene Academy of Religion, Theology, and History. We offer a certification program in cognitive pneumatology, the most extensive that you can find any place for any money. And we are not offering it for $500 per credit hour. We are offering it free of charge for those who will commit to completing it, get their certification, and get out here and help us with some of these dear people that are dealing with unbelievable burdens every single day, making a psychological impact upon them just as serious as those who are standing up before the emperor for martyrdom. Get in touch with me. If you feel a call, I don't care how old you are or how young you are. The training is here if you have the discipline to do it. And then you too can join in this great battle for the hearts, souls, and minds of those who are lost and on their way to oblivion. Please help us. We have plenty of people who need the help. What we don't have are many qualified counselors in this. You wanted that education, but you could never afford it, and you didn't have time then. But you have time now, and you have the desire to step out in a greater way to further your kingdom. Now you can do that. You poor? Don't have any money? That's all right. I'm not looking for money. I'm looking for people. We of New Earth Restoration Ministries are looking for people willing to finally step out, to fulfill those callings that they may have had in childhood, at church camp, in Sunday school, that missionary apostolic calling that they may have at the time turned down for one reason or the other, but now we feel like we've missed that calling. You've got time. Give it to yourself, and the training will be yours, because there are so many people lost and in need, and you can help. Yahweh bless you as we celebrate life while at the same time observe the demise of our martyrs in the faith. Amen. Amen. Contact me, www.yahad.me, YAHAD.me. Let's talk. Let me get you started. We will help you. The Nazarene Acts of the Apostles, the Great Demise, Chapter 4. Then Nero ordered Kepha and Paulos to be put in irons, and the body of Shimon to be carefully kept 3 days, thinking that he would rise on the third day. To whom Kepha said, "He will no longer rise, since he is truly dead, being condemned to everlasting punishment." And Nero said to him, "Who commanded you to do such a dreadful deed?" Kepha said, "His reflections in blasphemy against my master Yahshua Messiah have brought him into this gulf of destruction." Nero said, "I will destroy you by an evil taking off." Kepha said, "This is not in your power, even if it should seem good to you to destroy us. But it is necessary that what our master promised to us should be fulfilled." Then Nero, having summoned Agrippa the propraetor, said to him, "It is necessary that men introducing mischievous religious observances should die. Wherefore I order them to take iron clubs and to be killed in the sea battle of the games." Agrippa the propraetor said,
"Most sacred Emperor, what you have ordered is not fitting for these men, since Paulos seems innocent besides Kepha."
Nero said, "By what fate then will they die?" Agrippa answered and said,
"As it seems to me, it is just that Paulos' head should be cut off, and that Kepha should be raised on a stake as the cause of the murder."
Nero said, "Agrippa, you have most excellently judged." Then both Kepha and Paulos were led away from the presence of Nero, and Paulos was beheaded on the Ostesian road. And Kepha, having come to the stake, said, "Since my master Yahshua Messiah, who came down from the sky to earth, was raised upon the stake upright, and he has deigned to call to me who am of the earth upward, my stake ought to be fixed head down, so as to direct my feet skyward. For I am not worthy to be crucified like my master." Then, having reversed the stake, they nailed his feet up. And the multitude was assembled, reviling Caesar, wishing to kill him. But Kepha restrained them, saying, "A few days ago, being exhorted by the brethren, I was going away, and my master Yahshua Messiah met me, and having revered him, I said, 'Master, quo vadis?' which is interpreted, 'Where are you going?' And he said to me, 'I am going to Rome to be crucified.' And I said to him, 'Master, were you not crucified once for all?' And the master answering said, 'I saw you fleeing from death, and I wish to be crucified instead of you.' And I said, 'Master, I go. I fulfill your command.' And he said to me, 'Fear not, for I am with you. So on this account, children, do not hinder my going, for already my feet are going on the road skyward. Can you not see this to be true? Do not grieve. but rather rejoice with me. For today I receive the fruit of my labors. And speaking thusly, he prayed. I thank you, good shepherd, that the sheep that you have entrusted to me sympathize with me. I ask them, that with me they may have a part in your kingdom. And having thus spoken, he gave up the ruach. Immediately, glorious men, strange in appearance, materialized, and they said,
We are here on account of the holy and chief apostles from Jerusalem.
And they, along with Marcellus, an illustrious man, who having abandoned Shimon, believed in Kepha and took up his body secretly, and put it under the terebinth near the place for the exhibition of sea fights in the place called the Vatican. And the men who had said that they came from Jerusalem said to the people, Rejoice and be exceeding glad, because you have been deemed worthy to have great champions. And know that Nero himself, after these not many days, will be utterly destroyed, and his kingdom will be given to another. And after this, the people revolted against him. And when he knew of it, he fled into desert places, and through hunger and cold, he died, and his body became food for the wild beasts. Now, some of the devout men of the regions of the east wished to carry off the remains of the saints. But immediately after, there was a great earthquake in the city, and those that lived in the city became aware of it, and meant to seize these men. But they fled. However, the Romans took them and put them in a place 3 miles from the city. They were guarded there for a year and 7 months until they had built a place where they intended to put them. And after these things, all having assembled with glory and singing of praise, they put them there. And the deaths of the holy and glorious apostles Kepha and Apollos were on the 29th of June, in Messiah Yeshua our Master, to whom be all esteem and power. Addendum, the story of Perpetua. Apollos was being led away in irons to be beheaded at a place about 3 miles from the city. The 3 soldiers guarding him were from a great family, and when they had gone out of the gate about the length of a bow shot, there met them a God-fearing woman. And she, seeing Apollos dragged along in irons, had compassion on him, and wept bitterly. The name of the woman was Perpetua, and she was one-eyed. And Apollos, seeing her weeping, says to her, Give me your handkerchief, and when I turn back I will give it to you. And she, having taken the handkerchief, gave it to him willingly. And the soldiers laughed as they spoke to the woman. Why do you wish, woman, to lose your handkerchief? Do you not know that he is going to be beheaded? And Perpetua said to them, I adjure you by the health of Kaiser to bind his eyes with this handkerchief when you cut off his head. And so it was done. They beheaded Apollos at the place called Aquae Salvii, near the pine tree. And as Elohim had willed, before the soldiers came back, the handkerchief, spotted with drops of blood, was restored to the woman. And as she was carrying it, her eye was opened immediately. The 3 soldiers who had cut off the head of St. Apollos, when after 3 hours they started forth to Nero with the proof of Paul's execution, that is, the bulla, they met Perpetua. They said to her,
What is it, woman? Look, because of your confidence you have lost your handkerchief.
But she said to them, I now have my handkerchief, and my eye has recovered its sight. And as the Master, the God of Apollos, lives, I also have entreated him that I may be deemed worthy to become the slave of his master. Then the soldiers who had the proof, recognizing the handkerchief, and seeing that her eye had been opened, cried out with a loud voice, as if from one mouth, saying,
We too are the slaves of Apollos' master.
Then Perpetua left and reported to the palace of Emperor Nero that the soldiers who had executed Apollos said,
We will no longer go into the city, for we believe in Messiah whom Apollos preached, and we are Nazarenes.
Then Nero, filled with rage, ordered Perpetua to be clapped in irons. As for the soldiers, he ordered one to be beheaded outside the gate, about 1 mile from the city, another to be cut in half, and the third to be stoned.
I suppose they won't be laughing at me anymore.
So Perpetua was in the prison, and likewise Potentiana was also kept there, she being a noble young woman. She was imprisoned because she had said, I forsake my parents and all the substance of my father, and I wish to become a Nazarene. So she joined herself with Perpetua and learned from her everything about Paulos. Thereafter she was in high anxiety dealing with her faith in Messiah, and it so happened that Nero's wife was Potentiana's sister. Potentiana secretly informed her about Messiah, that those who believe in him see everlasting joy, and that everything temporal is temporary, but the realm of the Master is eternal. On this account, Nero's wife fled the palace with some of the senators' wives. Then Nero, having inflicted many tortures upon Perpetua, at last tied a great stone to her neck and ordered her to be thrown over a precipice. And her remains lie at the Momentan gate. And Potentiana also underwent many torments, and at last they built a furnace, and they burned her. And this is the sorry end of the acts of Perpetua. The Martyrdom of Clement, 35 to 99 A.D. Mamertinus, the prefect, sent a formal report to the Emperor Trajan, 98 through 117, concerning the blessed Clement, saying, The people do not stop asking for this Clement with seditious rants, and a credible proof of this case against him cannot be found. The Emperor Trajan replied that Clement must either show consent by making a sacrifice or be banished across the Sea of Pontus in the deserted town next to Cherson. When the decree of Trajan was ratified, Mamertinus considered how Clement might not seek voluntary exile, but rather make offerings to the gods. But the blessed Clement endeavored to bring even the mind of the judge himself to faith in Messiah, and to show that for himself he preferred exile rather than being cowed by fear. The master gave such grace to Clement that the prefect Mamertinus lamented and said, The God to whom you are so single-mindedly devoted will come to your aid in the sentence of exile. He set aside a ship, put on board all that was needed, and sent it on its way. There were actually many pious men from among the people who followed it. When he reached the place of exile, he found there more than 2,000 believers working in the marble quarries who had been sentenced much earlier. When they saw the holy and celebrated Clement, they all with one accord came to him with sighs and lamentations and said, Pray for us, high priest, that we might be shown worthy of our profession of messianic faith. When Clement realized that they had been banished because of their faith in Eloi, he said, It was not good without good reason that the Master sent me here. It was so that I could share in your sufferings and bring an example of consolation and endurance. He learned from them that they had to carry water from 6 miles away on their shoulders. So the holy Clement immediately urged them, saying, Let us pray to our Master, Messiah Yeshua, that he might open up a supply of water for those who profess faith in him. May the one who struck the rock in the desert of Sinai, and the abundant waters flowed, supply for us a plentiful stream so that we can rejoice in his generous help. When he had finished offering this prayer, he looked around this way and that, and saw a lamb standing there that raised its right foot, as though showing the place to Clement. Then holy Clement, believing that it was the Master, whom he alone could see and nobody else at all, went to the place and said, In the name of the Father and Son and Holy Spirit, you must strike in this place. They all formed a circle and dug with their spades. But it was not the place where the lamb stood. So then holy Clement took a small spade, and with a light blow struck the place under the foot of the lamb. There immediately appeared from the spot a stream that was beautiful with bubbling springs. It came forth with such force that it became a river. Then, as they all rejoiced, holy Clement said, There is a river whose streams make glad the city of Eloi. When news about this spread, the whole province rushed to see, and all those who came to hear Clement's teaching were converted to the Master. So each day, more than 500 were leaving as baptized believers. Within a year, 75 assemblies were established there by the faithful. All the idols were shattered. All the temples of the surrounding region were destroyed, and all the sacred groves within a radius of 30 miles were cut down and brought to the ground. Then a hostile account reached the Emperor Trajan of how the Messianic population there had increased to a countless number. The military commander, Aufidianus, was sent by him, and he killed most of the believers with a variety of tortures. When he saw that they all went to martyrdom with joy, he gave up with the rest and began trying to force Clement alone to make a sacrifice. When he saw that he was so firm in the Master and totally unwilling to change his mind, he said to the executioners,
"Take him and transport him to the middle of the sea. Tie an iron anchor firmly to his neck and throw him down to the depths, so that the believers cannot retrieve his body and worship him instead of a god."
When this had been done, the full multitude of believers stood on the seashore and wept aloud. Faced with this, Cornelius and Phoebus, his disciples, said, "Let us all pray with one accord that the Master may show us the relics of his martyr." When the people were praying, the sea was drawn back into a unique deep hollow of about 3 miles in dimension. When the people went across the dry land, they found a building made ready by Eloah in the form of a marble temple, and there the body of holy Clement was lying, and the anchor with which he had been thrown overboard was there next to him. It was revealed to his disciples that they should not remove his relics from that place. It was also revealed to them that each year on the day of his martyrdom, the sea would draw back for 7 days and give dry passage to those who came. The Master was pleased that this should happen to the glory of his name up to our own day. When this happened, all the people in the surrounding area trusted in Messiah. There no Gentile, no Jew, and certainly no heretic is found, for there very many blessings are experienced. Sight is restored to the blind on his festival day. Demons are cast out. The sick are healed. Those suffering with kidney problems and stones are freed from their ailments simply by touching his relics and by the sprinkling and drinking of the consecrated water. Those who suffer from any kind of sickness experience the benefit of healing by having recourse to the help of the holy martyr. His glory and praise endure forever through our Master and Messiah Yeshua, through whom and with whom glory be to the Father, with his most holy and life-giving Spirit, now and always and forever and ever. Amen. The Martyrdom of James the Just, from Hegesippus. Now some belonging to the 7 sects of the Hebrews asked him, "What is the door of Yeshua?" Yaakov replied that he was the one who saves. In response to this, some believed that Yeshua is the Anointed One, but the sects did not believe either in a resurrection or in the coming of the one to repay everyone in accordance to his works. But those who did believed because of Yaakov. So when many, even of the ruling class, believed, there was a disruption among the Jews, scribes, and Pharisees, who said, "A little more of this, and we will have everyone looking to Yeshua as the Anointed One." So they came in one mass to Yaakov and said, "We are asking you to hold back the people, for they have gone astray in their opinions about Yeshua, as though he were the Anointed One. We beg you to persuade all who have come here for the Passover about Yeshua. We all listen to your arguments, and since we and the people testify that you are just and show favor to nobody, do then persuade the people not to entertain erroneous opinions about Yeshua, for everyone listens to your evidence."
It's time to take a break now. We will be back with more of Jackson Snyder Presents right after the following interruptions.
So they came in one mass to Yaakov and said, "We are asking you to hold back the people, for they have gone astray in their opinions about Joshua, as though he were the anointed one. We beg you to persuade all who have come here for the Passover about Joshua. We all listen to your arguments, and since we and the people testify that you are just and show favor to nobody, do then persuade the people not to entertain erroneous opinions about Joshua, for everyone listens to your evidence. Take a stand upon the lower wall of the temple. From that higher place you may be clearly seen, and your words may be plainly heard by everyone. All the tribes have congregated here for the Passover, and even some of the Gentiles." The scribes and the Pharisees then set Yaakov on the top of the lower wall of the temple, and cried aloud to him,
O just one, whom we all promise to obey, since the people are in error by following the crucified Joshua, tell us, what is the door of the crucified Joshua?
And Yaakov answered loudly,
Why do you ask me about Joshua the Son of Man? For you will all know that he is sitting in the skies, at the right hand of El Elyon, and will be coming on the clouds.
When many were fully convinced, they offered praise for the testimony of Yaakov, and they cried,
Hosanna to the Son of David.
Then the Pharisees and scribes said to one another, "We have performed poorly in getting this testimony to Joshua. So let's go up there and throw him down, so that they may be terrified and not believe in him." They cried out loud, saying,
Oh, the just one is wrong. He's wrong. He's wrong.
So then they fulfilled the scripture of Yeshayahu, "Let us away with the just man, because he is troublesome to us. Therefore shall they eat the fruit of their doings." So up they went and cast down the just one, saying to one another, "Now let's stone Yaakov the just." And they began to stone him, for he was not killed by the fall. Yet he turned himself and kneeled and said, "I beg you, Yahweh, the Elohim of Abba, forgive them. They don't know what they're." And as they were stoning him, one of the priests of the Rechabim, of whom Yirmiyahu prophesies, began to cry aloud, saying, "Stop! Stop! What are you doing while the just man is praying for us?" But one of them, a fuller, took the club he used to beat rugs, and hurled it at the head of the just man. And so Yaakov suffered martyrdom, and they buried him right on the spot where a pillar erected to his memory still remains right beside the temple. This man was a true witness to both Jews and Greeks that Joshua is the anointed one. Soon after this, Vespasian besieged Yehuda, taking them all captive. Next up, the martyrdom of the blessed Polycarp, disciple of the Apostle John.
At first, the famous Polycarp was not dismayed when he first heard it. So far from it, he wanted to stay in town, but the majority persuaded him to leave. So he withdrew to a farm not far from the city, and there he stayed with a few friends, doing nothing but praying night and day for all those in the assemblies throughout the world, for this was his persistent habit. While praying, he fell asleep and experienced a vision 3 days before his arrest. And he saw his pillow on fire and burning. He turned and said to those who were with him, "It must be required of me that I will be burned alive." As those who were in search of him persisted, he left for another farm, and right away those who were searching him out came forth. And not finding him, they seized 2 slave boys, one of whom confessed where he could be found under torture, for it was impossible for him to remain concealed, seeing that the very same ones who betrayed him were those of his own household. The police captain, who happened to have a suitable name like Herod, was eager to bring him into the stadium so that Polycarp might fulfill his destiny, being made a partaker with the Anointed One, while they, his betrayers, underwent the punishment of Yehuda himself. So taking the lad with them, on the 5th day at supper time, the officers and horsemen went out with their usual weapons, very quickly as though against a robber, and coming together as one body late in the evening, they found their man in the bed in the upper room in a particular cottage, and though he might have left there for another place, he would not, saying, "The will of Yah be done." When he heard that they had arrived, he went down and talked with them, being surprised at his endurance for such an advanced age, and wondering why there should be so much zeal for the arrest of an old man like him. Right away, then, he gave orders that a table should be spread for them to eat and drink at that hour, and as much as they wanted. Then Polycarp persuaded them to grant him an hour, that he might pray without interference. And when they consented, he stood up and prayed, being so full of the favor of the Almighty that for 2 full hours he could not hold his peace. And those that heard him were baffled, and many repented that they had come against such a venerable old man. But when he finally brought his prayer to an end, after remembering all who at any time had come in his way, small and great, high and low, and all the assembly throughout the world, the hour of departure being come, they seated him on an ass and brought him into the city. A high Shabbat began. And he was met by Herod, the captain of police, and his father Nicetus, who also removed him to their carriage and tried to prevail upon him, seating themselves by his side and saying, "Why, what harm is there in saying, 'Caesar is sovereign,' and offering incense?" With more talk like this, and saving yourself. But at first he gave them no answer. When they persisted, he said, "I am not going to do what you advise me." And they, failing to persuade him, uttered threatening words and made him dismount with speed, so that he bruised his shin as he got down from the carriage. And without even turning around, he went on his way promptly and with speed, as if nothing had happened to him, being taken to the stadium, there being such a tumult in the stadium that no one person's voice could be so much as heard. As Polycarp entered into the stadium, a voice came to him from heaven, "Be strong, Polycarp, and play the man." No one saw the speaker, but those of our people who were present heard the voice. After a long time, when Polycarp was brought up, there was a great cheer, for they heard that Polycarp had been arrested. And when he was brought before him, the proconsul asked whether he were the man. On his confessing that he was, he tried to persuade him to a denial, saying, "Have respect for your age," and other such words, since they wanted him to say, "Swear by the genius of Caesar, repent and say, away with the atheists." With a solemn face, Polycarp then looked at the whole multitude of lawless heathens who inhabited the stadium, and he waved his hand to them, and groaning and looking up to heaven, he said, "Away with the atheists, away with the atheists. Swear the oath, and I will release you. Curse Christos." But Polycarp said,
86 years I have been his servant, and he has done me no wrong. How then can I blaspheme my king who saved me?
On his persisting again and saying, "Swear by the genius of Caesar," he answered,
If you falsely suppose that I will swear by the genius of Caesar, as you say, and making believe that you are ignorant about who I am, hear thou plainly, I am a Christian. So if you would like to learn the teachings of Christianity, sign a day and give me a hearing.
Proconsul said,
Let the people know.
But Polycarp said,
As for you, I would have considered you worthy of discussion. We have been taught to render princes and authority appointed by Yahweh such honor as is appropriate, which does us no harm. But as for these, I do not consider them worthy, so that I would defend myself before them.
Hearing this, the proconsul said,
I have wild beasts here, and I will throw you to them unless you change your mind.
But he said,
Call for them, for changing one's mind from better to worse is not allowed us. The impressive act is to change from indecency to righteousness.
Then he again to him said,
I will cause you to be consumed by fire if you do not like wild beasts, unless you change your mind.
But Polycarp said,
Thou threaten of fire that burns for a time,
After a little while it is quenched. But you are entirely ignorant of the fire of future judgment and eternal punishment, which is reserved for the unrighteous. So why delay any longer? Come, do whatever you will.
Saying these things and more besides, he was inspired with courage and joy, and his countenance was filled with favor, so that not only did it not drop in dismay at the things that were said to him, but on the contrary. The proconsul was astounded and sent his own herald to proclaim 3 times in the midst of the stadium, "Polycarp has confessed himself to be a Christian." When this was proclaimed by the herald, the whole multitude of both Gentiles and Jews who lived in Smyrna cried out with chaotic wrath and a deafening shout, "This was the teacher of Asia, the father of the Christians, the one who has thrown down our gods, who teaches crowds not to sacrifice nor worship." Saying these things, they shouted aloud and asked the Asiarch Philip to let a lion loose upon Polycarp. But he said that it was not legal for him to do this because he had already brought the spectacle to a close. Then they thought it appropriate to shout with one accord, "Polycarp should be burned alive!" For it was necessary that the vision about the pillow was to be fulfilled, and he saw it on fire while praying, and he turned around to prophesy to the faithful with him,
"I must be burned alive."
These things then happened with such great speed, quicker than words could relate, the crowds immediately coming together from the workshops and baths with timber and kindling, and the Jews assisting in this with excessive zeal, as is their way. When the pile was made ready, divesting himself of all his upper garments and loosing his girdle, he tried to take off his own shoes, though he was not in the habit of doing this because the faithful always eagerly competed to be the one to first touch his flesh. He had been treated with great honor for his devoted life, even before his gray hairs appeared. Then the instruments that were prepared for the pile were placed around him. And as they were about to nail him to the stake, he said,
"Leave me as I am, for the same one who granted me endurance for the fire will grant me to stay steadfast at the pile also, even without the security you expect from the nails."
So they did not nail him, but tied him. Then he, placing his hands behind him and being bound to the stake, like a noble ram out of the great flock for an offering, a burnt sacrifice made ready and acceptable to Yahweh, looking up to heaven, he said the verse,
"O sovereign Yahweh Almighty, the Father of your beloved and blessed Son, Yeshua, the Anointed One, through whom we have received knowledge of you, the sovereign of Malachim and Elohim and of all creation and the entire race of the righteous who are living in your being, I bless you for granting me this day and hour, that I might receive a portion amongst the number of martyrs in the cup of your Anointed One toward the resurrection of ageless life, both of spirit and of body, in the incorruptibility of the spirit of devotion. May I be received among these in your presence today as a rich and acceptable sacrifice, as you prepared and revealed it beforehand, and have now made it happen. You who are the faithful and true Master, and for this cause, yes, and for all things, I praise you, I bless you, I esteem you, through the timeless and skyward High Priest, Yeshua, the Messiah, your beloved Son, through whom with him in the spirit of devotion be esteemed now and for the ages to come. Amen."
When he had offered up the Amen and finished his prayer, the firemen lit the fire. A mighty flame flashed forth. Those of us granted to see beheld the prodigy, yea, and we were preserved so that we might relate to the rest what happened. The fire, making the appearance of a vault, like the sailboat's sail, filled by the wind, made a wall around the body of the martyr. And it was there in the middle, not like flesh burning, but like a loaf in the oven, or gold and silver being refined in the furnace. For we noticed such a fragrant odor as if it were that of frankincense or some other precious spice floating through the air. At length, the lawless men, seeking that his body could not be consumed by the fire, ordered an executioner to go up to him and stab him with a spear. When this was done, there came forth a quantity of blood, enough that it extinguished the fire. And the multitude was astonished that there should be so great a difference between the unbelievers and the elect. In the number of the elect was this man, the famous martyr Polycarp, who was an apostolic and prophetic teacher in our own time, an overseer of the devoted assembly of Smyrna, for every word that his mouth spake happened and will be happening. But the jealous and envious evil one, the enemy of the righteous family, having seen the greatness of his martyrdom and his blameless life from the beginning, and how he was crowned with timelessness, a reward that none could dispute, managed that not even his poor body could be taken away by us, although many wanted to do this and to touch his devoted flesh. So he put forward Nicetas, the father of Herod and brother of Alce, to plead with the magistrate not to give up his body in case, so it was said, they should abandon the crucified one and begin to worship this man. This being done at the urgent instigation and request of the Jews, who also watched when we were about to take it from the fire, not knowing that it would be impossible for us at any time to forsake the Anointed One, who suffered for the salvation of the whole world, that is, those who are saved at any time, since though faultless, he suffered for sinners, nor could we worship any other. For him, being the Son of Yahweh, we adore, but we cherish the martyrs, his disciples, and imitators of the Master, since they are deserving for their matchless affection for their own King and Teacher. May it be our destiny to be found partakers and fellow disciples with them also. So the centurion, seeing the opposition raised on the part of the Jews, set him in the midst and burned him after their custom. Afterwards we picked up his bones, that are more valuable than precious stones and finer than refined gold, and laid them in a suitable place, where the Master will permit us to gather ourselves together as we are able in gladness and joy, and to celebrate the anniversary of his martyrdom for the commemoration of those who have already fought in the contest, and for the training and preparation of those who will do so hereafter. So it happened that the blessed Polycarp, among those of Philadelphia who suffered martyrdom in Smyrna, 12 in all, is especially remembered more than the others, so much, in fact, that he is spoken of even by heathens everywhere, for he showed himself to be not only a notable teacher, but also a distinguished martyr, whose martyrdom all desire to imitate, seeing that it was after the pattern of the evangel of the Anointed One, having by his endurance overcome the unrighteous ruler in the conflict to receive the crown of long life. He rejoices in the company of the apostles and all the righteous, and he magnifies the Almighty Sovereign and Father, and blesses our Master Yeshua, the Anointed One, the Savior of our souls, pilot of our bodies, and pastors of the universal assembly that is spread throughout the world. You did require that what happened should be shown to you in greater detail, but for the present we authenticated for you a summary through our brother Marcianus. Once you have been acquainted with these details, send the letter to the brethren that are farther off, so they also may glorify the Master, who chooses from his own servants. Now to him who is able to bring us all by his favor and abundance to his timeless realm, through his only begotten Son, Yeshua, the Anointed One, be esteem, honor, power, and greatness forever. Greet all the righteous. Those with us greet you, and Euarestus, who inscribed the letter, with his whole house. Now the blessed Polycarp was martyred on the 2nd day of the first part of the month Xanthicus, on the 7th before the calends of March, on a high Shabbat at the 8th hour. He was apprehended by Herod when Philip of Tralles was high priest, in the proconsulship of Statius Quadratus, but in the realm of the timeless, potentate, Yeshua, the Anointed One, to whom be the esteem, honor, greatness, and timeless throne from generation to generation. Amen. We bid you the speed of Yahweh, brethren, as you walk by the word of Yeshua, the Anointed One, according to the Evangel, with whom be esteemed to Yahweh for the salvation of his set-apart elect, even as the blessed Polycarp suffered martyrdom, in whose footsteps may we also be found in the realm of Yeshua the Anointed One. This account Gaius copied from the papers of Irenaeus, a disciple of Polycarp. The same also lived with Irenaeus. And I, Socrates, wrote it down in Corinth from the copy of Gaius. May favor be with all people. And I, Peonius, again write it down from the copy mentioned before, having searched it out, for the blessed Polycarp showed me something in a revelation, as I will declare in the postscript, gathering it together when it was close to worn out by age, that the Master Yeshua the Anointed may gather me also with his chosen into his heavenly realm, to whom be the esteem with the Father and the devoted Spirit forever and ever. Amen.
And Death Shall Have No Dominion by Dylan Thomas. And death shall have no dominion. Dead man naked, they shall be one with the man and the wind and the west moon. When their bones are picked clean and the clean bones gone, they shall have stars at elbow and foot. Though they go mad, they shall be sane. Though they sink through the sea, they shall rise again. Though lovers be lost, love shall not. And death shall have no dominion. And death shall have no dominion. Under the windings of the sea, they lying long shall not die windily, twisting on racks when sinews give way, strapped to a wheel, yet they shall not break. Faith in their hands shall snap in two, and the unicorn evils run them through. Split all ends up, they shan't crack, and death shall have no dominion. And death shall have no dominion. No more may gulls cry at their ears, or waves break loud on the seashores. Where blew a flower, may a flower no more lift its head to the blows of the rain, though they may be mad and dead as nails. Heads of the characters hammer through daisies, break in the sun till the sun breaks down, and death shall have no dominion.
We hope you enjoyed the Nazarene Acts of the Apostles, and we thank you for listening. You can find out more about this book or purchase a hard copy at NazareneActs.com. Also available is an EPUB document full